Hey guys, Jameson Redding here with the Road Trip Angler, and I wanted to share a quick tip with you on one of my favorite knots to connect braid directly to a hook or a lure, and that is the Palomar knot. The reason I like to use the Palomar knot for connecting braid is it tends to not slip, plus it kind of doubles up the line that's wrapped around the lure, and braid tends to be a lot thinner diameter than your monofilaments and your fluorocarbon. So having that extra piece of braid kind of making that connection and doubling up on what's actually touching the hook, I feel like makes it a lot stronger. And it doesn't slip. Braid can slip a lot easier than most of your monofilament and fluorocarbon lines because it is such a smaller diameter and it tends to be really slick. Plus it has no memory, so it doesn't bite on itself quite as much as other lines tend to do. So if I'm tying braid directly to a hook, I'm going to use the Palomar knot, and I'm going to demonstrate that here with some cordage and an eye bolt just so that you can see it a bit easier. First thing you want to do is take your tag in and kind of double that line up, giving yourself plenty of slack because you will have to kind of loop it around the bait here in a second. But you'll want to feed that doubled end of your line through your hook eye or your bait connection, and then I'll pull it kind of close to the end of that tag end, because what you're going to do now is tie an overhand knot with the loop. So you just want to create that loop there and pull it through. So you've got your overhand knot just like that, and you've got all this slack here with this loop. Then you want to feed your entire bait or lure or hook through that open loop and kind of pull that slack out. It's a very simple knot to tie. It's very strong, and a lot of people like this knot even for when they're tying monofilament or fluorocarbon. I tend to only use this knot when I'm tying braided line because it doesn't slip, and it also doubles the amount of line that is circling and going around and making that actual connection to the hook. So it tends to be a bit stronger and it doesn't cut into the braid as easy. But that is my go-to knot, the Palomar knot, for tying braided line to any lure or hook. Oh, I knew it. So here's kind of the real world scenario of this. I've got a spinnerbait here, and I do tend to tie my spinnerbait sometimes directly to my braid. I would do that with any kind of lure that I would be moving fast through the water or fishing around heavy cover. I'm not worried about that fish kind of picking apart my line. So I'm going to make a big loop again with my line, kind of doubling it up, and pass that through whatever the connection point is on your bait. In this case with the spinnerbait, it's right there. Tie that overhand knot. And once I have this overhand knot tied, I'm going to open up this loop and pass the entire bait through it, holding my tag in. At this point, I'm just going to start cinching it down, and that's what it looks like on the lure. Now I've got a lot of tag in here because I wanted to make sure I had enough, so I'm going to just trim all that off. My go-to for tying braid directly to any lure. Quickly recap the Palomar knot. I'll show you step by step. Step one, you just want to double your line over with plenty of extra so that when you go around your bait later in the steps, you have enough slack. Step two, take that doubled end of the line and pass it through the eye of the hook or the connection point on your bait. Step three, pull that until it's pretty close to where that tag end is. Step four, tie an overhand knot with that looped line. Step five, take that lure and pass it through the excess you have in the loop. And step six, pull all that slack all the way down to the eye of the hook or the connection point on your bait. Again, this is where you can moisten that line with your mouth a little bit to make everything slip better. And the final step is to simply cut off your tag end after you've got everything cinched down and go catch a fish. To see how to tie all these knots, be sure to check the links in the description and check out our channel at the Road Trip Angler.